So welcome everyone. My name is Randy Berth and I am the Vice President and Chief Innovation Officer of WRTP Big Step here in Milwaukee. And today we're going to be hearing about raising women's success in apprenticeship and a collaborative model. We encourage all of you to say hi in the chat box so we know if you're here, and feel free to put in any kind of questions so that we can answer it. And Stephanie Johnston, one of the WRTP staff people in Madison, will be facilitating that. But I have been at WRTP for a very long time. I'm the first full-time staff person from 1995. So one of the things we always like to do is try to look at what the industry needs and stay on top of that, and then respond to those needs by creating partnerships and collaborations and solving problems that are in the field. So let's see, what's the next slide? We're going to talk about the WANTO, and this is a little overview of, it's a Women in Apprenticeship and Non-Traditional Occupations. It's a formal act in 1992, which authorizes the U.S. Department of Labor to award grants and to assist employers and registered apprenticeship programs in promoting the recruitment, training, employment, and retention of women in apprenticeship and non-traditional occupations. When we look at overall at the needs of the local economy, if you look in California, for instance, in 2018, there was over 81,000 active apprentices, yet only 6% were women. When we look at Washington State, they had over 7,000, almost 8,000 apprenticeships, but only a 10%, I shouldn't say only, that's a good 10%, but it's not good 10% since women make up 50% of the population. Minnesota has 11,000 apprentices, and in its strongest, most inclusive region, the Twin Cities, has less than 6% of apprenticeships are women. And in Wisconsin, and we broke this down into in non-traditional occupations, because overall women in Wisconsin are at 6 or 8%, but when you look just in construction and manufacturing, we're only at 2.3% and 2.9%. So, you know, on the 50% of construction apprenticeships, because that's about what they used to be, we're kind of changing. There are a lot more apprenticeships now in, I would say, more traditional fields in healthcare and cosmetology and other types of, I would say, more female traditional roles. But this is really for looking at helping to get women enthusiastic about and then staying in more non-traditional occupations. Here in this partnership that we're going to be talking about, you'll hear from some very impressive women from around the country, and the industries we'll be talking about, you know, is the manufacturing, is construction, is transportation and distribution, you know, is a variety of IT and other types of occupations. So we are working in a variety of sectors, but our focus is on women and in non-traditional apprenticeship programs and occupations. Okay. The name of this project is Raising Women's Success in Apprenticeships, and it's a collaborative network to really inform and reinforce the different linkages to the Workforce Innovation Act, both at the state, local, and other Department of Labor funded apprenticeship projects, as well as supporting union and employer apprenticeship needs. Part of what we do and what everybody on this call is everybody that's presenting today does, is provide technical assistance and connection to preparing women to these existing network and practices. All of the women that are presenting are part of this network and other networks that we're trying to strengthen and increase, from sharing best practices, lessons learned, you know, helping others grow so that they don't have to make the same mistakes that we have. Because anytime you try something new, you're going to have a little bumps along the way, and that's okay. You know, it's it's a process, it's not an event. So I'm gonna just kind of be the moderator today, and I wanna hand it over to my good friend from the West Coast, Lynn from the Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee. I'll let her actually introduce herself, as I'm sure I wouldn't do it justice. So Lynn?
Okay, so can everybody hear me? Just a nod. Okay, all right. I have a little bit of unstable internet right now, so I'm going to keep my pre-COVID picture up, so you guys can't see all of my gray hair and everything. But thank you, everybody, and welcome. Good afternoon. My name is Demetria Lynn Strickland. I work as the executive director for the Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee. We are located in the great state of Washington here, headquartered in Seattle, Washington. So AJAC is it's a nonprofit, but we are an apprenticeship service training organization, and we train, initially was primarily in the aerospace industry, mainly in the supply chain outside of Boeing here, and to be able to develop the workforce in that area. So what I'd like to do, just to give a brief historical overview of who we are, how we were formed, then to be able to talk a little bit about our structure, and then our program offerings, and then the importance of not only women in manufacturing and aerospace, but also in apprenticeship. So AJAC was established in 2008. It's a joint labor management nonprofit apprenticeship program. And we provide, as I said, apprenticeship training. And at the time, it was for a $76 billion aerospace industry. And the challenge is that the pipeline didn't meet the demand. So we have some great community and technical colleges here in the state of Washington. We have our K through 12 system, and we have our private and public universities. But it still was not meeting the demand for employers, and apprenticeship training was not something heavily utilized outside in the supply chain. So AJAC was created in 2008 to be able to address that need, but also the concerns that we've been hearing for the past 10 years, 10, 15 years, of the retiring workforce, the rapidly changing technologies that we see in industry, the increased globalization, and the growing skills gap. So next slide, please. And so the design of AJAC was, we were mandated by our legislature just to be a little bit different in certain aspects of 21st century design. So taking from the historic and proven gold standard of apprenticeship, and then just giving it a little bit of a twist. So AJAC is set up as an incumbent worker apprenticeship program, which means that in order to be able to get into the apprenticeship, you have to be working or employed with a current training agent. And so this ensures that programs are employer driven by location and occupation. And it requires a continuous business development arm of that. So we have business developers that go out and talk about the workforce needs of employers in the supply chain, and also have apprenticeship as a part of their workforce development portfolio. So the occupations are developed by employers with professional curriculum developers and industry subject matter experts. So we don't take the curriculum, design it without the employers in mind. The employers are at the table from the very beginning of the design, as well as they contribute to the revision. So as we talk about the rapidly changing technologies, it's very important that we have subject matter experts there to be able to ensure that what we're teaching is current with industry. And so that is why all of our instructors, who also serve as subject matter experts for curriculum revision, they currently work in industry. So as the technology changes, they bring that back to us, and we're able to revise the curriculum, not as fast as we would like just because of the rapidly changing technologies, but we're able to revise that because we have a staff of over 60 part-time instructors that are serving as both instructors and subject matter experts. And so part of this 21st century design was also an intentional partnership with our community and technical colleges. They receive some funding as they partner with AJAC with regards to enrollment. So Once we take that curriculum, we have the professional curriculum developers put it into academic, I guess, speech, for lack of a better term. And so we work with our community and technical colleges. It goes through their instruction curriculum and they attach college credit to it. So all of the RSI courses for all of our programs do have college credit attached to them. And in the state of Washington, if you're an apprentice engaged in training that has college credit attached to it, then you receive 50% reduced tuition. So as an apprentice in the state of Washington, you can have access to a 2-year degree, 50% reduced tuition, and 0 college debt. So that's part of the design in AJAC. So next slide. And so, you know, you hear a lot about intermediaries. This is our perception of intermediary. This is what we do, and we do consider ourselves an intermediary and an apprenticeship service provider. So we actually sit in the middle of all of the stakeholders that we work with. So we engage employers, bring them on as training agents. We work with apprentices to enroll them in courses. We provide RSI, OJT, all of the administrative compliance to our state apprenticeship agency. We work with the community and technical colleges, as I mentioned before, to attach college credit to all of the RSI, even though all of our instructors are the ones that perform the instruction. We sometimes work as an intermediary between other state and federal agencies, as well as our K through 12, our WIB boards, and CBOs. So really, we are that liaison between various agencies to develop and implement the apprenticeship training program. And that involves heavy employer development and engagement. We also provide mentorship training for our partnering employers. We also provide OJT consultations for those employers that are not really familiar with apprenticeship, having them understand that 93% happens on the job. And again, we are engaged in that administrative and compliance and disciplinary, as well as tracking the RSI and OJT. So next slide. And so these are the programs. Because AJAC is an incumbent worker apprenticeship program, we've had to develop over the years some pipelines into industry. And so we have a pre-apprenticeship or an apprenticeship preparation program called Manufacturing Academy. It's a 10 to 12 week program that provides individuals information about industry, but it also provides theory training as well as hands-on training. And we developed that program with employers to be able to understand what the entry-level requirements would be for those individuals coming into industry to kind of address that skills gap so that individuals can get the training that they need to at least get that entry-level position. And then our hope is that they would be spooled up through apprenticeship once they are employed with a training agent. So that Manufacturing Academy, our pre-apprenticeship, has been around since 2011. In 2017, we started our first youth apprenticeship cohort. We currently have 2 occupations, and those are legitimate, substantial occupations, but those are just occupations where if you're 16 or 17, you're allowed to participate. It is still registered apprenticeship. It is nothing less, but that is also serves as a pipeline into industry. And we also have our advanced manufacturing prep, which is really a 2-day course to orient individuals, to let them know about industry, the available opportunities and occupations, and also to assess if they need more training, be it through our pre-apprenticeship or any of our community or technical colleges certificate or degree programs, or sometimes people are just ready for industry and they just need that assistance with resumes and some industry introduction. And so we train to 9 apprenticeship occupations with several different pathways into apprenticeship. Next slide, please. And so this is just kind of an overview. So as I stated before, we started out primarily in aerospace, but we also have training agents in biomedical, defense, food processing, manufacturing, the manufacturing part of food processing, manufacturing in itself, as well as space. And so the occupations, the 9 occupations that we train to, most of them cross multiple industries. And that's how we're able to expand out our apprenticeship by working not just with aerospace, but also with other industries. And so just kind of a high level look at our registered apprenticeship. We serve over 400 apprentices annually. We have over 400 partnering employers, and they are mainly small to medium size employers. And that was also part of the design, because sometimes you have those small to medium sized employers that maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 apprentices to train, and it's hard for them to go to our community and technical colleges to be able to receive that specific training. So we kind of work in a cohort or a consortium type of way. And again, most of our employers are either small to medium size. And of the 32 community and technical colleges, there are 22 that have aerospace specific programs, and we work with 8 of those community and technical colleges. So I know that it's kind of cut off at the bottom, but we have 30% of our apprentices are people of color, and 5%, so we're halfway there with the Washington standard of women, and there's 3% that are veterans. So with our youth apprenticeship, our pipeline program, we have over 100 youth registered in apprenticeship in both of those occupations I mentioned. We're partnering with 14 school districts or high schools, and that encompasses 7 counties. So we're all over the state, and there are 57 employers engaged in the youth apprenticeship piece of that. And so also part of with our pipeline programs, because industry looks a certain way, it's predominantly white and it's predominantly male, we also use our pipeline programs, our manufacturing academy, and our youth apprenticeship to infuse some diversity into industry. So 7% of the youth are women, 48% are apprentices of color, and then 20% of those apprentices reside in rural areas. So also in our manufacturing academy and our AMP sessions, our 2-day sessions, we serve about 250 participants a year. And through our manufacturing academy, we've served about 160 through our fall and our spring quarter. We normally serve about 200 annually. So again, this is providing the pipeline into industry. And then once the individuals get their foot in the door, then we encourage the employer to upskill them through apprenticeship training. And in our manufacturing academy, we also have a partnership that we work with Justice Involved Youth. We're in our 16th, 17th cohort right now, and that's being able to give those young men the opportunity to learn those skills so that when they transition back into the community, they have some skills. And we've also attached 12 weeks of on-the-job training to that cohort. And in our manufacturing academy, our pre-apprenticeship, we also partner with alternative high schools. And so the outcomes of the manufacturing academy, we have about 77% placement into industry. About 22% of those individuals that complete are women, and upwards to 48% are people of color. So next slide, please. And so why do we need more women? As Randy alluded to, about 50% of the workforce involves women, are women. So 50% of the workforce is women. In manufacturing alone, there's 6.6 million open jobs currently. And for every 1 manufacturing job, there's about 2.5 indirect jobs that are created, but less than 1/3 of the manufacturing workforce. And when I say manufacturing, I'm talking about a big umbrella of advanced manufacturing that includes all of those industries that I mentioned, the aerospace, biomedical space, the manufacturing part of food processing. And so, but 1/3 of the manufacturing workforce is women, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the women that they're counting in manufacturing are in those high paid jobs, right? And so, as alluded to, about 7 to 8% of women are in apprenticeship, and this is at the national level. The national numbers are that it's apprenticeship has a 94% retention rate with an average salary upon completion of about $70,000. So if we create more pipelines into industry for women and other underrepresented populations, and then we encourage apprenticeship for additional training, we can get women and other underrepresented communities into those high paid occupations using apprenticeship training, which is a proven standard. So some of the things that we're doing, marketing is great. And I was listening in on the JFF Women in Manufacturing this week. And I heard this over and over again, and we see it for ourselves to be true. So in order to encourage more women and people of color to be able to participate in an apprenticeship, they want to see it. So you have to see it to be it, right? And so what we're doing, we're also trying to hire more women instructors, subject matter experts to be a part of our board and our committees, because we want those voices represented at the table. And that also involves a concerted effort by our business development team to be able to encourage employers to understand the merits and the competitiveness of a diverse business strategy with regards to having more women in their workforce. And so that's kind of a capsulation of AJAC, where we are, and the need that we have for more women, not only just in manufacturing, but we'd like to see more women in apprenticeship as a whole, be it the building and construction trades, be it IT, be it all of those other non-traditional industries. We need to have more women in there, because as we see in this recession is disproportionately affecting women, and that's because they tend to be in the different industries that don't have the high-paying jobs. So right now, I'd like to pitch it over to Tracy Carey, who is with the Midwest Urban Strategies.
Oh, thank you so much, Lynn. I have to say, I am always so impressed with the work that AJAC is doing, and I think that you guys are light years ahead of so many others who are working in this space, and I think that we have a lot to learn from all of the good work that you guys are doing in Washington, and some of the opportunities that it presents for women to enter into occupations that they might not before have considered. So thank you so much for going over that high-level review of how you guys are structured and how you operate, and the great work that and the results speak for themselves, right? I was certainly impressed by the difference in the youth apprenticeship numbers of women and minorities who are coming in through that pipeline feeding system, and the impact that that probably will have over time on your registered apprenticeship work. So I think it's fantastic, and thank you. So my name is Tracy Carey, and I'm the Executive Director of Midwest Urban Strategies. Midwest Urban Strategies is a consortium of urban workforce development boards, and if somebody wants to advance a slide, that would be great. We are essentially the industry association for urban workforce boards from across the Midwest. We were organized in late 2014, early 2015, and were originally being supported and backboned by the Workforce Development Board that's located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. At the time, that organization was led by Earl Buford, who is well known within the industry intermediary circles and workforce circles. And he set out to create some networks between other leaders within the public workforce system to really help each other dig into practice and understand how to do the work that they do better, more efficiently, more effectively, reaching more people, serving employers in new and innovative ways, and really advancing the economic position of those local economies. So MUS really got going networking with a number of workforce boards from across the region, and in 2017, it successfully secured a number of Department of Labor grants, which really sort of changed the tune for the work that MUS was engaged in. That opportunity to begin to really provide cross-region grant management and implementation supports really helped us to start to dig into where we shared experiences as urban environments in the Midwest, and as well as really pointed out the places where we were different. And that created a great opportunity for us to learn together. And all of that really led to why our participation in this, the Want To partnership came to be, and how we were positioned to really be playing an important role, I think, in the work that we're doing here. So one of the things that Midwest Urban Strategies focuses on, and if you can advance the slide, that would be great, is looking at issues related to job quality, as well as racial and gender equity and inclusion practices. And so workforce boards are not traditionally known as entities that are looking at those sorts of issues historically, but the boards who are involved in Midwest Urban Strategies really have decided to stretch themselves and think deeply about how they do the work that they do. I'm just going to briefly kind of go through, and I'm actually going to go from west to east just because it's the easiest way for me to do this. So our membership currently includes the boards from Wichita, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Milwaukee, Chicago, Gary, Valparaiso, Detroit, Michigan, Indianapolis, Cleveland, Columbus, and Canton, Ohio, and then Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So Pittsburgh, you might be saying, isn't really in the Midwest. So why are they a part of Midwest Urban Strategies? They joined the consortium when their leadership made the decision that the work that we were doing together was something that really made sense to them and would help them to really advance the work that they were doing. And really they're a Rust Belt city, similar to the rest of the Midwest. So it was pretty much a no-brainer for us to engage them in the work that we were engaged in. So next slide, please. So we've organized the work that we do inside Midwest Urban Strategies using this umbrella of an innovation laboratory. Workforce boards are structured to act as pass-through entities for public resources to move into training dollars and supporting industry work and supportive services, all those sort of standard things that workforce development boards are engaged in. But as I mentioned earlier, when MUS was organized, those boards made a decision that they wanted to dig in a little bit more into the practice of workforce development and to understand how to do that more effectively, more efficiently, and with greater impact. And so they really looked at the funding that they had received as a mechanism that they could use to improve the practice that we were engaged in. So we started to do work in industries that were expanding our reach, and that includes industries like financial services, in the technology space, as well as in those more traditional areas of construction and manufacturing that boards have been supportive in the past. So as we moved into these new spaces, what we really began to see was that there's a clear difference between the occupations where women find themselves comfortably moving into and where there isn't good representation. I think that Randy mentioned early on in her introductory speech that the number of women in apprenticeship isn't quite where we would hope for it to be when we looked at some of those numbers in states across the country. Certainly, we would all like to see those numbers come up higher because, as Lynn suggested, apprenticeship is really a tool that we can use to advance job quality. So when women go into apprenticeship programs, what it does is it increases their wages, it increases their ability to advance, it increases their skills, which makes them more valuable. All of those things lead to greater job quality, and they really advance the principles of equity and inclusion. And so we saw apprenticeship as a way to really advance those key values and have really dug into how to use apprenticeship and other work-based learning strategies to assist women as they're moving into these occupations where they haven't traditionally found themselves, and help them get comfortable in those spaces and begin to move into those career pathways. And so as we began to really look at the data related to these occupations, what we also discovered was that the role of women in these non-traditional occupations isn't always valued in the way that we might think it should be. And that sort of showed up when we started to disaggregate data. So for instance, if we look at the 7% of women who are represented as in apprenticeship programs in a state, for example, it's very difficult to understand what sort of representation there might be of Black women, or what sort of representation there might be of other ethnic groups or minority populations. There's not a good disaggregation of data. And part of that is about, you know, not wanting to know, because we have a lot of work to do. And you know, so we're really interested in beginning the process now of digging in to understand better what those disaggregated numbers might look like, and how we can start to develop a system that prioritizes, or at least places value on, programs that actively recruit and engage women in the pursuit of non-traditional occupations and apprenticeships. So one of the ways that we're advancing that work is through the connection of our programs and trainings and services, which are procured. That's part of what the public workforce system does. It goes through a process of bidding out work and selecting vendors or contractors to deliver those services. We're really interested and have begun the process of looking at how to incentivize those funding opportunities for training vendors or service providers that are able to really speak to how they're serving women and how they're serving disaggregated groups of women to advance them in those non-traditional occupations. Because we know that when you incentivize the participation in advancing those values, then those funded agencies follow that pattern. That's just sort of, they're going to follow that money. So that's something that we're working currently through our network of the 13 workforce development boards who are members of Midwest Urban Strategies, to understand what that could look like and how we might implement those sorts of practices across our region, so that the programs that we invest in are programs that are advancing women in ways that are meaningful. And the definition of meaningful is that they are in jobs that are of quality and that are equitable, and engage them in the opportunity to advance in their occupation. So all of this work is really organized in a way that leads us to this idea about replicability, scalability, and sustainability. So we want to be investing in programs that that we're able to test and iterate, and those that are successful and show some promise, we want to test out their ability to be implemented in other areas. So when we find programs that are successful in supporting women in their advancement in non-traditional occupations and apprenticeship, then we look to replicate those in other areas. Once the replicability test is met, then we really look to the ability to scale those programs to a regional or national level. And then lastly, the big test is, how are we able to sustain those programs and those practices over the long term? We believe that because the public workforce system is the mechanism through which those federal dollars flow, that by affecting the policy decisions that we make in terms of how we invest our resources and prioritizing programs that intentionally focus on quality for advancing women, that we can have some direct impact on the sustainability of those efforts. So in closing, I just wanted to make a few last points here. And so a few examples of programs where we are doing this work in our innovation laboratory, and can we advance the slide, please? And really learning about how things work so that we can think about replicability, scalability, and sustainability includes the work that we're doing in Minneapolis. They have a tech hire grant there, and they have done some fantastic work with helping women advance into career pathways in technology. And in fact, 40% of the scholarships that they gave to individuals who are interested in new career pathways in technology went to women. And those are jobs that pay very well and create great advancement opportunities for women. And then in the construction space here in Milwaukee, our partner WRTP Big Step has done some great work around Empower and the work at the Northwestern Mutual Tower, and making sure that women were included in the among the contractors who were working on those projects for both the Bucks Arena and the Northwestern Mutual Tower. And then lastly, our partners in Pittsburgh, the National Association of Women in Construction, is really working hard to recruit women into pre-apprenticeship training, placement, and also focusing on retention and mentoring efforts as well. So these are all examples of programs that are happening in local areas that once we fully understand how they're operating, we will look at replicating them across or within other parts of our region. So that's a little bit about how we're doing the work that we're doing and intersecting with the work that WRTP Big Step is doing to lead this Want To grant. And I'm going to hand it over now to Joyce Guy from West Oakland Job Center to talk a bit about the work that they're doing there.
All right, thank you very much. Everybody, thank you for being on. I'm Joyce Guy. I'm the Executive Director of the West Oakland Job Resource Center. Excited to be here. One of the things I want to start off with is I am a retired iron worker. So I come up out of the building trades. So I understand the dynamics of what it takes to be in a trade and definitely what is required to go into an apprenticeship. So when I accepted the job over here, I was really excited because over the years, we've seen actually different trades shift in their recruitment for women, some shift up, some shift down. With that being said, we only are two sector driven at the West Oakland Job Resource Center. One is the construction industry. The second is transportation, distribution, and logistics, which is the TDL, which also slides over into advanced manufacturing, just because of the technology that is being utilized in the industry now. Next slide, please. So our mission statement, as you can see, the West Oakland Job Resource Center is a nonprofit, community-based organization committed to improving lives of Oakland residents by assisting them in achieving meaningful, and I say that with drive, employment and financial stability. So that covers a gamut of things. So when we say the word meaningful employment, as we had said before, what does that really mean to you? You know, I live in the Bay Area, and we cover actually the county in the Bay Area as far as employment is concerned. But what does that mean? One of the things that we found out in our community is a lot of people who are living in low income housing, that if they got a job paying $15, $18 an hour, which is really technically, even starting out in an apprenticeship or in the TDL industry, it was going to affect their housing. So it became something where we were like, we had to start working with getting people ready for that transition of now you're going to be paying real rent and real actually taking care of yourself with another financial, from another financial perspective. So we have a very extensive, very wonderful financial literacy program, which works with your credit, how to handle your money, getting a bank account. So that's very important. One of the things that the Job Center is so prevalent for, so well known, is how we got written into a policy. And this was very important because it gave us the ability to actually work with women and people of color that lived in a community to get the work that was coming on board in the community they live in, right? So we had ample opportunity to get, we can't even begin to talk about on our Oakland Army Base project, which you will see that come up, just that project alone and the build out, which is continuing to build out between the Oakland Army Base and the Port of Oakland. In the last few years, there's been over 350,000 work hours and over $16 million made by Oakland residents. And we've been able to open the door for opportunities for women from a gamut of other CBOs who have their pre-apprenticeship MC3 training programs and actually filter them through the ability through local hire policies. And I'm really going to emphasize on being written into policies because then you can hold the contractor, the developer accountable, and you can leverage that. We've moved women into operating engineers. We've got women into TDL side once operations started up. And so we're really excited about how that movement is going because we're really watching how the women, especially women of color who have children, who, all of that are big pictures. And I'm going to be the first to say, I was a mom raising a kid and trying to do the Ironworkers Apprenticeship. What does that look like? So it was a good thing to have somebody who understands the dynamics of it all. And also who are able to talk with either the contractors or the company. And this is what you do because we're part of policy to assist this person to be a good employee. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the Oakland Army Base, and this is a very short version of a condensed version, construction job policies. We know that if we're dealing with the unions, there are processes. But one of the things is to get this policy into play, it took the community, it took the city, it took the building trades, and it took the developer and the contractors to all sign in and agree on the processes that needed to be put in play so that they can get local residents to get a part of these jobs that the community wanted to have. How were they going to do that? They were not going to go to 7 or 8 CBOs. So what they did was they came up with the West Oakland Job Resource Center, where we call ourselves the Switzerland of it all because we kind of do TA work for the contractors and we do for the city. We intermediate in things that are going on possibly. And so as we're going out and we're doing working with other organizations, for example, there's an organization called Rising Sun. They do an all-women cohort. We go in and we assist them by either doing supportive services for those women, because we know about a lot of the local hire jobs that are going on, by helping them connect the women to their first initial job. We also do things such as we may go, if a woman has a problem on the job, Joy Sky, puts on my Red Wings and I go out on the job site. And that's always amusing because, they think that I'm like the secretary lady until they see that ironworkers jacket that says ironworkers in the back. But we have to be there. Be there for these women and hold their hands as we encourage them and stuff. And we do somewhat of a mentorship to get people acclimated to being in an environment that they're not, especially women, accustomed to. So you see the process where an employer will come to us, request, we will look for somebody. We will even go back to the union hall. We may even ask the union to do a out of line assessment. In other words, we may say, you know what, can you assess this person in the next couple of days because this individual has a sponsorship. And because it's for that particular project, the unions tend to, if it's within the realm of what they can do, they tend to work very closely with this. We do something called supportive services. I mean, let's keep it real. It costs a lot of money. If you're doing the construction side, it costs a lot of money. So we will assist in paying your dues, buying your tools, and getting you ready for your first initial job. And so, so we do that because we know that some of these policies have apprenticeship and new apprentices requirements. So once again, it goes back to being written in to the policy. Next slide. So this is our operation side for our TDL, which is amazing because the Job Center has done something very unique. We're the first source of hire for the Oakland Army-based employers. So what does that mean? That means that when you want to hire somebody to work in your warehouse, we're working with a very prominent company called Good Eggs. When they want somebody, they come to the Job Center first and say, can you help us meet our hiring requirements, which gives a lot of women and people of color and other people of color opportunities to get to work once again in the neighborhood or in the city they live in. They pay a good rate of pay. They start out at about 18 and night differential is about $19 an hour, which is amazing. And when we're working with these individuals, we're working with the company and we're working with women who come in and say, well, you know, I've been in a warehouse, but I don't know if I could be at Good Eggs. It's because they move food and ship it. And so what we do is we help coach them. We help coach Good Eggs on how to deal with opportunities to bring people in. For example, they're at the Oakland Army base. And one of the things we found that was so unique is that through the hiring process was we assisted them in opening a job fair. When we assisted them in opening a job fair, one of the things that was unique was there's no good transportation, there's no public transportation. So working with Good Eggs, we helped them come up with the idea for a shuttle that would get them around, which then helped a lot of women that are out there working with their child care issues or being able to drop their children off and things of that nature so that they're able to come to work, be confident, and do their job. Good Eggs is now in conversation, and we're talking about women and the real issues that we have when we might be the only parent, or the women we work with might be the only parent, and so we have these children. They're talking about setting up 24-hour childcare because their workforce is now being dominated by who? Women. So we work with them on that. The hiring process, long-range planning, projected out. They tell us what they're projected out. There are times they call us and they need 70 or 80 people. There's a lot of hiring and stuff. A lot of local residencies. So there's certain zip codes that get a priority look so that they meet the policy qualifications and stuff. So we're really excited about that and the opportunities that are available for, once again, people and residents of color, and also their ability to be promoted. We got a couple of women hired there in the past few months, and they've already been promoted to leads, and they've only been there for 2 or 3 months. We always check in with them there. We're always that, and that's the other thing, the constant checking in with women, so we see that they're okay and stuff. So as you can see, these zip codes that are local within about 3 miles of all these zip codes, that disadvantaged worker, we identify what that is. We're the only agency in the Bay Area that's authorized to do what they call disadvantaged worker verification for employers. So, you know, we come in, we look at the assessment of who would be considered a disadvantaged worker and stuff. So that's a great piece of that. So as we have new developers come on these projects or new companies, they're constantly with us, and we're constantly recruiting more women and more people of color to get in it. We also do, real quickly, we're doing a virtual warehouse and logistics training. Next slide, please. And what that does is the warehouse and logistics training before COVID, which changed things for us, we were actually assisting people and coming in 3 weeks, do a training, and we were teaching people pre-prep to get your Class A license in conjunction with the Teamsters and the JATC, their JATC. So really exciting, trying to bring that back on board, but we are doing it online, which is a little different. I want to chime that in. As you can see, this is what we do, how the structure is. We have several avenues that people can take based on how they come in and are assessed by us. We have several projects we work with, and even more that's being added on a daily basis that have local hire requirements that are different, but it gives people opportunities to get their first job, or not even their first job, to get skills upgrading or get a job opportunity that they can have locally in the community. We have something called Sister to Sisters, which I really love. It's where we just engage women. We might bring them in with Trade Women Inc. and do a meet and greet. We might take them all out to dinner, especially women in the trades and needing that supportive service, out there surviving when sometimes you're out there on the job all by yourself. We have building sustainable families. We have financial coaching, which is really amazing. We watch people's credit change all the time. But as you can see, we do math prep, pre-apprenticeship programs. If we can't do something here with you, we will pay or send you to another pre-apprenticeship program. So, and we pay for transportation, and we have something called worker support, which goes back to work boots. We may have to give you a gas card. We may have to give you money to buy food for your lunch. So it goes to that nature of everything, because those are sometimes the most heart-wrenching situations, especially for women. We even have a couple of childcare agencies that we work with that, they do it on a sliding scale, that for a few weeks we might can be able to get you that done. And so that while you're kind of figuring out what to do and how to do to get to work, you don't have to worry about your childcare. So next slide, please. I think that's it. So I'm sorry. So I want to introduce to you Stephanie Moreno from WRTP Big Step. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Joyce and Tracy and Lynn. It is great to be able to collaborate with you and learn more from you ladies and your organizations. I think it's fantastic. And I'd like to welcome everybody, and thanks for coming. And I want to launch a quick poll. I'm curious to see how many industry stakeholders we have on here today. So if you don't mind, as I think we'll give you about 30 seconds to fill out the poll if you can. Just curious to see who's part of this. And I'm hoping that we are providing a lot of information for you. And if not, hopefully that we would be able to eventually partner with some of you. So again, I am Stephanie Moreno, and I am the Women Apprenticeship Coordinator. And I have I work with some fantastic people around the nation with this grant, and as well as I'm learning a lot from Randy, who is moderating this webinar today. So Wisconsin Regional Training Partnership Building Industry Group Skilled Trades Employment Program is what WRTP stands for. So it's just easier to say WRTP, obviously. So next slide, please. We're a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to helping candidates finding opportunities in the construction and manufacturing sectors. So we focus on helping people enter career pathways to family-sustaining jobs. You've heard previously, with our partners, we all seem to be doing the same thing. And we're definitely, looking to enlighten folks into non-traditional occupations and other types of non-traditional careers. So we're recognized by the state of Wisconsin Bureau of Apprenticeship Standards as a certified pre-apprenticeship program. So the certification, it recognizes our high quality industry-led training programs that give participants the skills that they need to enter and succeed in registered apprenticeships. We also have the IMT, or the Industrial Manufacturing Technician. It is an innovative new hybrid apprenticeship program that combines on-the-job training with classroom instruction and creates a new pathway to family-sustaining careers, but in the manufacturing sector. So we focus on both construction and manufacturing. Next slide, please. So what do? Traditional job training programs focus only on supply of labor available to the industry. And it often ignores timely and specific nature of the industry's workforce needs, right? So what we do, our strategy with WRTP Big Step strategy, we provide training programs that are driven, that are developed and conducted based on employer and industry demand. So our model is built on strong collaborative relationships with industry partners, specifically quality employers that provide family sustaining wages and strong benefits. And so I'm noticing that and if you're noticing that I'm saying family supporting wages, because that's really important, especially nowadays. Some of the services that we provide, we recruit and assess job-ready candidates from a wide range of community-based referral programs. We prepare qualified candidates for recruitment and advancement opportunities. We offer nationally renowned employment readiness training programs designed, again, by the industry. And I'm sure, we can, if you have any questions, please, put them in the chat. We have a lot of working relationships with the industry. I mean, that's what we pride ourselves on. Next slide, please. So who do we work with? So our industry and community partnerships, they enable us to plan and facilitate a variety of community engagement events to inform members of the community and about training, and employment opportunities that are available in the construction and the industrial sectors. So, and I need to say that WRTP Big Step, we have 3 offices. Our main office, as I like to call the mothership, is based in Milwaukee. And then we have the Madison office, and that's where I am currently based out of. And then we have a Racine office. So in Milwaukee, we've developed a community workforce partnership, or a CWP model, that illustrates our commitment to building innovative workforce development strategies that can be replicated in other communities around the nation. So the CWPs, the CWP meets regularly to align programs and services, to enhance our interagency referral process, and to coordinate outreach and networking activities to strengthen, I cannot say that word, recruitment efforts. Another way that we also work with unions, and in the previous, I believe, actually MUS, Tracy touched base on this. Empower is a Milwaukee Building Trades Council Women in the Trades group. And they're focusing on helping women in the trades figure everything out about how the unions work, how to become a leader in your union, how to make positive and progressive impact on the construction industry. And ideally, this is in Milwaukee, but ideally they would like to branch into throughout the whole state of Wisconsin. And we are currently in the Madison area, currently working with them so that we can promote and continue to promote the women here in the trades in this region, the South Central region. So let's see. So this group holds monthly meetings. They're actively involved in community events. We hold collaboration. They hold collaborations with us, with WRTP. We hold recruitment events for them, for women who are interested in getting in or finding out a little bit more about the trades. I can tell you that I am working on something right now that's going to go across for the state of Wisconsin. Another webinar regarding women in the trades here. And so I will be sending out information about that hopefully soon. What else do we do? So we do direct hiring. So WRTP partners with employers to host recruitment events for individuals to connect them directly to career opportunities. We have a lot of partners and employers who come to us and they ask us that, to either hold recruitment events for them so that they, so that we can provide them with great participants. To start a career in these opportunities. And so we also are an industry response. So we design recruitment and training programs that meet the recruitment needs of the industry. So this is what we do. I'm hoping that I gave you a little bit of an overview of what we do. I'm going to turn it over to Randy. I know that she can give you a little bit more information. She is the expert on WRTP Big Step.
Well, thanks, Stephanie. I think I've just been there the longest, so I don't know about expert, but one thing I did want to mention is because everybody's really talking a lot about some of the, typical trades. And when we look at what registered apprenticeship does, it's typically taking a rookie and turning them into a skilled trades person. Unless you were in manufacturing, and then you're not, because usually in manufacturing, you have to work, you have to prove yourself, and then there's only a small number of skilled trades apprenticeships that are offered, you know, because the majority of manufacturing is production. There's only a few skilled trades people in any given facility. We just did our industrial needs assessment, which is what really drives a lot of our programs. And out of the 221 firms that we've got in so far, 200 of them have women working there, but only 11 out of the 200 or 221 have advanced women into any skilled occupations. So we've looked at that, and when we look at, we can't find qualified workers, and you know, the disconnect between, there are community residents, but we can't find, you know, we really designed and created this industrial manufacturing technician apprenticeship that Stephanie brought up, that has scaled quicker than any apprenticeship our state of Wisconsin in its 100 years or over 100 years of registered apprenticeships has done, better than ever. And it's being replicated across the country because it's for the production workers. If you look at an average firm, 95% of the workers are working in production. It's only the short numbers that's working in the skilled trades area. And when I looked at the state numbers recently, for women, the IMT is the 7th most used occupation for women in our entire state, which I think is, you know, astronomical when you really look at it. Our numbers so far for women, we've got a 22% average for female and 22% people of color. And the newest thing that you probably can't know because we haven't even really announced it yet is WRTP now has a labor management industrial apprenticeship sponsor. So now we are an apprenticeship sponsor here in Milwaukee for anywhere in the state and have received a grant to help implement that. But when you look at career ladders and when you look at how do you help people get from point A to point B, you can work with the industry to create new apprenticeship programs. You know, it doesn't always have to be the existing programs that are out there. So I always like for us to look at and stay on top of what new things can we do and how do we overlap them. So I don't like to say career ladders as much as the overlapping between a youth apprentice or a pre-apprentice gets advanced standing for the hours or the training in the IMT. And the IMT can actually be a pre-apprentice, even though it's a standalone, a pre-apprenticeship for the maintenance and the 4- and 5-year apprenticeships. And you can get the 3,000 hours of advanced standing in the higher apprenticeship. So it's not like step 1, step 2, it's like a real overlap of what you don't have to repeat. So looking at easier ways for women to get in and be more valuable or have a better chance of advancing is something that this whole group, which is unique. You know, how often do you get consortium of workforce boards that are actually working and looking at, okay, in all those cities, who's doing the best stuff, or who can we partner with to do more or help to do better, and how do we connect, especially the WIOA world, which wants to connect to apprenticeship and has such a difficult time connecting to apprenticeship because of the timelines or how long it takes to get on a list or to get advanced, you know, in the typical things. And this is the group really working on making that work. And when you heard Joyce talk about the policy that needs to be in place in order to make these things work, how better than a consortium of these employers and unions and community partners to recommend policy in any given region and look for resources to be able to implement those policies. Because I think around the country you hear, you know, requirements on jobs, and you hear people that are gonna look at compliance, and there's like, but where's the middle, you know, who's making this work? Whoops, where's the resources to make this work? Sorry about that. No, it's gonna go. So why don't you take this over, or Stephanie?
Sure. So obviously, why is this important? So women in the workforce, obviously, we're vital to the nation's economic security, right? So it's crucial, and I'm obviously reading off of the slide here, but it's crucial to advocate for the equality and the economic security for themselves and their families, and to promote quality work environment in order to expand pathways for women to enter and lead in all industry. I mean, this is what's bringing us together as a collaborative. And I think, from here, yeah, can you put the next slide, please, Steph? We wanted to know if you had any questions regarding anything that that either Lynn has, is doing in Seattle, or Joyce is doing in West Oakland, and Tracy is doing in the middle portion of the States. I'd like to open it up to question and answers.
And we do have a question from one of our founding mothers, I would say, or sisters, that helped really pioneer, especially the Big Step program, for very many years to be the successful model that it is, and in order for us to replicate in other cities. But the question is, what would you say is your best practice around the retention of female apprentices? Who wants to start with that one?
So I can go. I mean, one of the things
Joyce, okay.
Well, go ahead, Joyce. I'll let you go.
Oh, no, real quickly, I think that one of the things is the follow-up, and to just go and constantly check up on the women. One of the reasons, and real quickly, why I was so successful in staying in the trades was because there were always group potlucks. People were calling to see if I was okay, whether they were on the job or not. And so it developed some confidence and because women, we need that venting space, because a lot of times we're all alone, especially in construction. So I would always say the follow-up, contact, go on the job, say hi and break time, see how they're doing.
I would second that, and thank you, Tracy, for asking that question. I definitely second that, and one of the, I want to refer back to the Empower Her group. It was started by a group of women, in the trades, as well as women in the industry, who, to have like a safe space to discuss, and it's kind of, I like to look at it or view it as like a mentorship a program, right, for either women who are going through the process of their apprenticeship, and in this case it's with construction, but at the same time it's for you have first year, second year, all these apprentices who are in their early years of their apprenticeship, who are going through struggles, and they need to have, like Joyce says, that safe space to either ask that question and not and at the same time vent. Now Empower Her really isn't a place where it's more like it's not they're not bashing, it's not a man bashing, it's just talking like, how can we empower each other to successfully go through an apprenticeship with all the challenges that women are facing. One of the things that I'm also doing, I think, is I am very intentional, and I'm when we do, this is going to go back to what Lynn had said too. I'm very intentional is when we're doing our marketing. You have to see it to be it. So when we've been trying to, and I know that I have done an all women cohort for training purposes. Definitely when we do our flyers, you have to be intentional for the underrepresented groups. I mean, I a couple of years ago, we held career fairs, and we did it, where it was intentional for, Latinos, for women, for African-American. You have to be intentional, and you have to get those folks that are also in those trades that represent the people and the underrepresented people in the industry. So that's one of the things that I'm finding that I'm doing.
Stephanie, if I could add, I think what I've heard so far makes oodles of sense to me. I completely agree with both Joyce and Stephanie in their in the things that they've added here. I would also say that policy matters. And so when we're thinking about contract negotiations, or we're thinking about how we develop policies around the contracts governing contractors, those sorts of things, really digging into representation and disaggregation of data, putting resource to what we say we value. I think it's in the policy that we start to see institutionalized change. I think it's really important that we support women and that we're there for women and we back them up and we have their backs and we support them and give them space to vent and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, changing the practices of industry can't be left to any individual woman or group of women. It is a structural thing that needs to change, and that happens through policy.
And then if I can just add, I'm writing down notes from Stephanie, Joyce, and Tracy. So I'm taking down notes too, because we haven't figured it out. But what we see, one of the things that, and again, in addition to just the marketing, having like a mentor or somebody that has been through it, right? I don't come from aerospace industry, but I understand that experience being in the military. I was in an occupation that had very few women. And it mattered that there were other women there that I can really talk to. So part of our focus right now is really hiring more women from industry who can also serve as instructors, right? Because those instructors are seeing those apprentices, you know, during their classroom time, and it provides them an opportunity to be able to talk about, you know, maybe some of the challenges and stuff that they're having offline, not in class. But sometimes that also might be good to have that conversation in class among the other male apprentices and stuff to try to also be able to get some good allies on the job for the women that are there who happen to be men, right? And so that's one of the efforts, and I'm glad to hear that Stephanie had, I think you said that it was the Empower Women group. We have been talking about having a group for the women who are apprentices, especially in their first, you know, year or two, and then having them turn around and be mentors, you know, in their third and fourth year to the first and second year apprentices who happen to be women, and also having male allies in that group too. So, you know, I'm encouraged by, you know, some of the, you know, suggestions from the other panelists and stuff like that, because again, we're trying to figure it out too. And I don't think that there's one particular thing that is going to help bring more women in and or keep them. I think it's all hands on deck. And so it's not just the women who are apprentices, but also getting those good mentors and those good allies that happen to be male too. And so trying to mentor them, you know, also at the same time. So thank you all for your input on that.
So a quick one, Lori had asked about us becoming an apprenticeship sponsor. So we're similar to what the building trades do, where they have a joint apprenticeship committee, and they basically have the control over the apprentices, how they get in, how they move up, to make sure their training is compliant both on the job and in the classroom for the related instruction. In manufacturing, it's really just an apprenticeship committee per shop. And so there's not that interaction between different apprentices, but kind of modeled after what Lynn had talked about in Seattle. We are a multi-employer, multi-union, and for both union and non-union employers, to take on the responsibilities of the apprenticeship program. So we'll arrange the training, we'll make sure they're getting the on-the-job training in the areas they need, we'll make sure that they're getting the related instruction and the delivery is all there, and with WRTP Big Step itself, we'll be able to surround it with support in order to make that happen. So hopefully it will maximize the opportunities for industrial apprenticeships in the manufacturing and industry. But I think that's it for today. I think we had a great panel. I love these women that we work with on all these different things that we have, and we all work with great guys too, so I don't want to not put them in the middle, but this is a woman's initiative, and as you can tell, we're all very passionate about the work that we do, and I really do want to thank all the speakers. Now, when we look at next steps, I think we wanted you guys to be thinking about how are your programs investing in women. You know, are your organizations willing to commit to partnering on a letter to elected officials, to really describe the importance of women in non-traditional occupations. And if you're interested in continuing this discussion, please just let us know.
We have a poll, a quick exit poll that we're going to be launching really quick with the next steps. We're looking forward to possibly bringing, you know, a second part of this if you are interested. And what would you like us to bring as you know, as far as, you know, what are we finding in the work that we're doing right now? So if you could please, you know, answer. It would be fantastic, and then you'll be receiving also a survey in the next day or two as to how we did, and we hope that this was very informative, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you and being able to present to you again. Thank you.
All of you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.